if I get called from the school because one of my kids stood up to a bully for whatever, their looks, their size, their color, who knows? I want that call from the principal.
That would make you proud.
Yes. Yes.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Not So Late Show. This is episode 11 with your hosts. I'm Josh and this is Joanna Scott. All right guys, what's up? Thanks for joining us live over on Facebook, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you're doing well.
We missed you guys last week. Sorry we were not on. I think that was my fault. I wasn't feeling very good. But I'm better.
Good. Awesome. All right.
Well, let's talk about our week.
Yeah,
How was your week?
Last week was good. It was a good week. We actually got back into the office as a team, which felt nice to get everybody back. You put together a whole bunch of protocol for coming back in a way that was safe, that I think everybody appreciated. Lots of hand sanitizer and wiping and some social distancing. But yeah, I think everybody really enjoyed being back.
It was I found a lot of toxin-free ways, chemical-free ways to keep the office clean and the air purified, and so that was good.
Yeah.
It smells really great in there.
It does. It smells awesome. So what about you? How was your week?
Orange Theory opened back up. So that was a big day in my world.
Yeah.
And they also have some new summer swag. Whoops.
Nice.
Sorry. Anyways, I love the bright colors. Thank you, Orange Theory. Just, right now, it's nice to put on a bright color and work out and sweat. It was awesome. Martha, one of my favorite trainers, was there. They're all wearing masks. It's very interesting. It's actually, typically Orange Theory is a 60-minute class. Right now it's only 45 minutes.
Okay.
And they're doing that just because of social distancing and the effort and time it takes to clean in between. And so the classes are smaller, but they're starting to add more people back in, and they're also getting more efficient at cleaning. So they said, I think by next week, it'll be back to 60 minutes, which is always killer. But yeah, it's really been great to get back into that. And we've been in the yard.
Yeah.
And actually last week and the week before were all things plants. I was out. Yeah. I was outside. You were inside.
Yeah, just some indoor plant projects that I was wanting to do just kind of through this time. So I had my eye on some indoor plants, some fiddle leaves, some monstras, those types of things. So I ordered some pots online. Once they got here, we went over to the nursery and got got a picture of the fiddle leaf fig that we put up. So it's a big guy. I mean,
it's really pretty.
Yeah, it's like an 8 foot or something like that. So, and the pot came from Crate and Barrel on sale, summer sale. So, score.
Yeah, good job. It's beautiful. Our house is very, you can probably tell, monochromatic, minimal, but it adds like a really nice green, just a nice pop of green color. So then I've been outside. I actually don't know if I've ever grown herbs, but I'm growing chives. Cute little signs for them. And I don't know, it looks really dry actually. I need to water those. Chives, cilantro, basil, and oregano. So they're still mainly in the baby phase. The cilantro is really good, and you can like pick it and eat it.
Yeah, we've had a couple pieces. Super fresh.
So that's been fun. And then, and you power washed our patio.
I did.
It was a really big chore. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, patio just blew out all the old sand and kind of grout type stuff, and then just put the patio sand back in. So that's been the project the last 2 weekends. So made an entire mess of the place, and
now it comes in the house. So you'll be like walking and you feel this little tiny granules of granulated sand.
Yeah, it takes a little while to settle in, but every couple of years you gotta do that, just keep the weeds out of the patio. So, but it was nice being out in the sun and working for sure.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thank you.
It was a big deal to get that done.
Yeah.
Oh, and do you guys want? Is anybody watching?
Oh yeah, 6.
Okay, so I love golfer stories, so I thought I would just tell my most recent.
Yeah.
I think we should do like Sorry, I wasn't done with all my stuff.
No, yeah, go for it.
Golf. We could call it like golf diary, like the Scott's golfing diaries or stories, whatever. I'll come up with a clever name. However, the golf saga continues, and it was just really funny. I was sitting out there. I was actually Marco Poloing a few of my friends, and the golfers just like come straight up into our yard to get their balls, or a ball. Not really balls, ball. And anyways, so yeah, I don't love that. Honestly, none of us love it when you come into our yard. We just prefer that you ask and just be like courteous, right? I don't think he saw me. He just come straight into the yard, way into the yard, like almost up by the patio to get his ball. And I'm just like sitting there over to the side, and he didn't see me. And then as he's walking back through our yard, he spots this ball laying there, like another one. And he, like, out of the corner of his eye, he sees it, but then he looks up and he sees me. And I was like, hey. I was like, that's my yard. He's like, you're right, so sorry. He, like, steps over the line where it's not our yard. And he's, like, right on the edge there. And he's still looking at this second ball. And he's like, do you want me to grab that ball for you? And I was like, is this your ball? And he's like, no, it's not my ball. And I was like, should you grab it? Like, it's not yours. He's like, I probably shouldn't. I was like, bye. I'm teaching grown men lessons on morality, doing the right thing. It was very funny. I mean, I had a smile on my face the whole time. Yeah. I was sort of just kind of messing with him a little.
Yeah.
You know. But anyways, we have
the
a crate full of
saga continues. We have replaced the window that was busted a couple of weeks ago, so that's all good for the moment. Anyway, so obviously we started this section called like what to watch, what to read, what to listen to during quarantine, because it was so applicable to just talk about like what we were all doing to entertain ourselves. But even since that's lifted and everybody's kind of getting back to normal and we have less time, it's still a fun segment to talk about currently what we're reading or watching. My current book, where are we at? Tomorrow's Gold by Mark Faber, which is not my typical reading. I was trying to figure out when, 2002. So it's a little old, but Asia's Age of Discovery. It's actually a financial markets book about emerging markets. And I'm in this financial group called Full Cycle Entrepreneur. I think we've talked about it before, but just kind of looking ahead and thinking through, like obviously everything right now from the stock market is down 1.1% on the year, which is crazy. So COVID tanked and it's come back up almost the entire way. Yet today they officially announced that we are now in a recession. They needed 2 quarters of data, 2 quarters of economic downturn to qualify it as an official recession. So it's like regardless of what June does, the second quarter is going to be a recession. Like we're in one. So however that impacts our economy is yet to be seen. I mean, obviously there's all this consumer confidence. Everybody's wanting to get out. There's this like pent up demand. But I think as we're looking ahead, just kind of trying to figure out where that's going to go. And is it going to be a hard recession? Is it just going to be a little...
Well, yeah, and how long?
Right.
Oh, man.
Is it just going to be a little blip from COVID? But I mean...
Do you think that news is going to affect everyone's summer vacation plans?
Oh, I think it already has. Mm-hmm. But it's
I know COVID has, but sometimes when they release like factual data like that and give it a title like we're in a recession, that starts to really... change mindsets.
I think there's all kinds of factors in here. I think there's all this like pent up demand. Like people were inside for 8, 10, 12 weeks. So they want to go out. They want to spend money. They may not, I don't think people are going to travel out of the country, but I think they may still do some traveling, especially by car or even like long weekend trips. So I think that'll happen.
Maybe some national parks.
RV rentals are like off the charts right now.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah, and Airbnb said that their rentals for June were up 65%. So like we're seeing everything bounce back. And you also have all this unemployment cash in the system, right? Like more unemployment than normal. People are getting paid. You have all this PPP money in the system from businesses. You have mortgage lenders and landlords delaying rent and mortgages for 2 to 3 months. So all that's going to start coming due in July.
Right.
So I think we have like this bullish summer, but I'm not sure where it's going to go after that.
Right.
It's hard to bring an economy to an absolute standstill and not have any long-term economic effects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, this book comes in because it's really good. It actually kind of goes through some examples that are similar to that. It's amazing, even though it's from 2002, just like some of the similarities. And
is that when the book is from?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So should we be buying gold like Ron Swanson?
He passes the sheet over to the banker, like, or the attorney. He's like, "Here's how much I have," and the guy's like, "Good Lord, man, how much gold?" But yeah, I mean, I'm like writing in this thing all day long. It's just super, it's super interesting. A little bit abnormal reading for me, but I've been enjoying it. Partly because I'm a business owner and I'm trying to like be responsible with like where things are going and forecast. So yeah.
Are we going to go mining for gold on our RV vacation?
No, there's no RV vacation. There's no gold.
All right.
So anyway,
that looks like a fun book.
What have you been into lately?
Well, we started. Have you guys heard of Space Force with Steve Carell? So it's a 4-star general Netflix show. But anyways, he's a 4-star general. And he teams up with a scientist to get the U.S. military's newest agency, Space Force, ready for liftoff. It is hilarious. There are such great characters in it. We finished, I think it's just 1 season so far. And when we first started the first episode, I wasn't exactly sure, but it's worth watching. It is really funny. Just wait till you get to the episode with the monkey in outer space in it. Yeah,
episode 2 with Marcus the monkey was like... ridiculous.
Yeah. I think everyone should just watch that after a hard day.
I know. I should have like ripped the clip and put it on here. But I don't know. I think overall I was kind of like, by the time we got done with the show. Like, I kept waiting for, I'm like, I think this is funny. I think this is funny. So I don't know.
Yeah, listen, it's not The Office. There's no, you know what I mean? It's not that level of funny, or even Parks and Rec, but I think it's better than like the Community.
Yeah.
That show.
Yeah.
That old, what is it? 2000, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
2012, I don't know. Community was like aired a while ago, but yeah. So Space Force is good. I would check it out. I think it's worth it. Like if you just want something that's lighter, not so serious. Yeah. I'm listening to a book on Audible. I love Audible because it's basically like a podcast. And I can speed read the audio like time and a half. So I'm listening to Jen Hatmaker's new book, Fierce, Free, and Full of Fire. And the book really just centers around finding the freedom to take as much space as you're created to take up, and to not feel shame or to not shrink back from who you really are based on gender stereotypes or culture norms or your upbringing, and to just kind of freely, unashamedly be you. And of course, I love books like that. And Jen has been on her own journey in like the evangelical community. She talks about really being primed to be this like female evangelical spokesperson protege, and how like her journey of really finding out who she is through that process. So it's a really, really interesting book. I think she had to be incredibly brave to write it. And it's interesting, so many women in their 40s are finally just going, oh no, I'm going to say that thing now. I've been holding it in for decades, or I'm going to speak my truth, or I'm not going to, say that to please you, or spend more time on this because you want me to. I'm going to do what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's cool. That's her second book?
She's written a few.
Okay.
But yeah, she took some time off, and so this is her latest.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, guys, obviously the last couple of weeks, lots going on in the country specifically. And also, if you've joined us in weeks past, we've had some serious technical issues with getting this thing broadcast just through Wi-Fi and Facebook, and we've been trying to hack that. So
sorry about that.
If you were on those and just experiencing freezing and the loss of signal, I think everything is looking super solid right now. So we like I said, we've kind of hacked through some of this to try to produce a highly produced show, like with some elements to it, but like do it in a way that streams very efficiently. So, but yeah, last couple of weeks have been a little crazy, to say the least.
So everyone watching, just whether you're watching live or you watch this later, do this with me. Just take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I think breathing and pausing before you talk about, anything serious or anything with a lot of substance is good. One thing I know I wanted to share from both of our hearts is, before we kind of launch into this dialogue, is we believe everyone, that means you, me, everyone, United States, globally, is entitled to and has a right to their own diverse way of thinking and believing about any issue. We strongly believe that each of us has to determine what our own individual convictions are and when and how to act on them. I just want to preface this conversation by saying that our country is beautiful because of the diversity in it. Our country is beautiful because it's not gray.
Yeah.
It's colorful. And it's the colorful opinions and convictions of all of us, bringing all of that to the table, that make our world more interesting and more amazing. And I think that if our world was all gray and we were all one and the same, it would be really boring and ugly. And what if diversity helps us learn from each other? What if it helps us grow and expand our thinking, to have more of an open mind? So even if we don't agree on everything, you and I, or let's say you and your neighbors, or you and your community, you and your church, you and your boss, your colleagues, I bet we can agree that all humans have a right to dignity and a fair treatment.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that hopefully our country can agree on.
And I mean, look, we have clients that believe differently than we do. We have family that believe differently than we do. We have friends that believe differently than we do. We have neighbors that believe differently. And I'm saying that from our perspective. I'm saying that from everybody's perspective. We all have family that thinks differently, believes differently, neighbors. So it's okay.
Right. It really just needs to be okay that we don't all agree 100%. As long as we're agreeing on really important components like human dignity and the fair treatment of all people. So, hey, I think that the approach here is just choosing to give the people around you the space to breathe, to be, and to live their life with their own convictions and beliefs, and to just respect people who don't have the same opinions as our own. So well, well
done, well said.
Thank you.
Obviously, we've had some big events happening in the world lately.
Starting with COVID,
Yeah.
I mean, really, which sets such a climate for everyone being stuck in their home, and so much, tension and challenges for business owners, and months of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously, the last couple of weeks, just protests and the riots happening, for sure.
Well, specifically, we're talking about May 26th. A man, George Floyd, whom we all know, very well know. We all watched the horrifying video where his life was taken, and he was, Officer Chauvin, I believe that's how you say his name, had his knee on his neck for almost nine minutes, and 3 other officers were basically bystanders and just stood there. So the outrage when that happened, something kind of exploded and snapped in our country. And it felt different, it looked different, and all of a sudden, we noticed, obviously, all of these protests nationally started to happen, and people were coming out of their homes despite COVID to stand up and speak up for what they believe in. And I think the one thing I wanted to point out is that the conversation is bigger than one person. It's bigger than George Floyd. It is, and well, listen, it's about the fact that all humans, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic status, religious belief, all deserve dignity and fair treatment. And I said that earlier, but I think that we can get really focused on one man. It was an event that was really wrong and tragic and shouldn't have happened. It was a needless, circumstance and killing of a man. I've heard people talk about how he had a criminal record, and obviously had a lot going on in his life. He had been in and out of prison for drug possession and was sentenced to 5 years in 2009 for assault and robbery. And yes, those are facts. However, I think that we can all agree that he still, regardless of all that, did not deserve that treatment from that police officer. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting is obviously going back to everybody has different opinions, everybody believes different things, but making it about his previous records, or making this about there are still good cops as well, and be careful and all that stuff. And sometimes at the end it's all those things are true. It's not one or the other. It's not he had a record, so we can't make an issue of this, or there are still good cops, so we can't make an issue of this. I don't think it's an either or issue. I think it's all those things. He had a record, but he also didn't deserve to get treated like that. There are good cops, but there are also not good cops,
Sure.
And so I think some of this, the conversation can get distracting. It can get all over the place.
And I think at the end of the day, isn't it about humanity? Isn't this about humans?
Yeah.
Can we just make this about a human not being treated properly? And he was an American of color, a black man. And I think we can get sidetracked by focusing on maybe his criminal record. And I think that can steal from the fact that if that was a family member of any of ours, we wouldn't stand by and let that happen.
Yeah.
We would stand up and speak out and do our thing in our own way.
Yeah.
And so I think here's my question for all of you. I have a few for you tonight. So the first one, if someone is a criminal, and you guys please jump in and answer, do they deserve to be given the same treatment that you and I would demand with a non-criminal record? So whether they are an American of, color, or if they are white, whatever, who deserves to be given the same treatment? Who deserves dignity? Is it someone with a criminal record? I would love to know what you think about that.
What's the question?
Well, the question is, if someone is a criminal, do they deserve to be given the same treatment as someone with a non-criminal record?
Okay. Yeah.
If you were pulled over and you had no criminal record, but if you were pulled over and you had a criminal record, how should that event go? How should that arrest go?
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that. And then I think it even adds in another layer when we're talking about race here, and we're saying, so should Americans of color be treated differently by police officers than white people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Comment. I would love to know. We would like for this to be, a peaceful dialogue and just a conversation tonight.
Yeah. Facebook comments, peaceful dialogue. Sure.
It's going to be all the rage. It's a new thing. We're starting now.
And then obviously, all the protests, erupt. And I think some of what was, when all that happens, I think part of it was just interesting watching media coverage of that, because obviously it's like this thing starts happening and people start watching news channels. And initially it was so focused on the violence and the damage that was and the destruction that was happening. And where I think some, obviously it was true and that was happening, and whether or not there was instigators or whether or not that was just this pent up aggression, right? Like I'm a big believer in when you lock down humans for 12 weeks and kind of strip control from them, like, man, like history has taught us that humanity does not like that.
Right.
They don't like not being in control. And then stuff like this happens. Like this is proven over and over and over again. So I think there was an element there.
Especially for the first 9-10 days, it was only the riots.
Right. Yeah. But obviously we've seen, I think DC on Sunday or Monday had 100,000 people. Los Angeles, every day it's been more and more people, just streets massively filled. I can't even count the numbers. So it's only grown, and it's awesome that in the last couple of days, the coverage has turned peaceful. It's obvious that it's becoming, way more peaceful. It's tough because I know we have clients in urban areas all over the country, and some of them have been massively affected. Some of them just opened practices and then COVID hit and they had to close. And then they reopened and riots happened and they had to close again.
Well, and even I've heard of some practices, where the riots, they were super destructive.
Yeah.
And which is incredibly sad. Yeah,
I had a podcast interview today with a pediatric practice in downtown Chicago, and she said she got her windows boarded up at 10. They were finally done at 10 o'clock one of the nights. I want to say it was a Monday. She said the first Monday when it all started getting crazy, but she said the Montessori school right next to her got all the storefront glass broken out and looted, and she would have had that if she hadn't have gotten the boards up, but they have been closed for 2 weeks because of it. So
which is extremely disheartening when you have pushed through something as hard as COVID, and then you have to get everything ready with PPE and your team ready and rally and all of that and open back up safely and then shut back down. So my heart goes out to the business owners and dentists that experience that for sure. Yeah,
and look, I really support and believe in the right to protest and the right for your voice to be heard. Not a fan of the violence. I don't think any of us are. I understand it, especially in the context of what's been going on. When people, fearful people get angry, and angry people look for somebody to blame. And I think a lot of people are coming out of this COVID state fearful, angry that they had to shut down, angry that they were feeling this loss of control. And this was a spark that reacted so many people. So while we don't support the violence, I understand that. But I'm so glad to see it evolve past that initial news story of violent protests and destruction, and now into something that feels like it's peaceful, feels like it's moving things forward.
Definitely.
So yeah.
So a second question for anyone watching: do you believe it is our civil liberty to participate in a peaceful protest? What is your opinion? And then tell us, have you ever protested?
Have you ever protested?
Yeah. What state was it in? What year? Protesting has been happening for the history of our country and globally. And so, fill us in. Let us know your story. Well, it is our civil liberty.
Yeah.
It's, covered in the First Amendment. And like you said, the media has done a better job now of covering some of the beautiful, peaceful protest, going on. I think it's been difficult. I think the question I've tried to ask myself is, what good has been happening? Or what are the things that are possibly turning into beautiful stories and are changing mindsets in the right direction or the right way? And I think it's been really cool to see so many people come together peacefully, lock arms with awesome, law enforcement and police officers, and walk and participate in these peaceful protests together and stand together for something that they strongly believe in. And it's on both sides. It's law enforcement and, maybe not all law enforcement, but at least there's been a ton of videos and a ton of media coverage of, police officers joining in. And the BBC, actually, we've talked about this, has done a somewhat of a better job of capturing some of the truth in the middle of all of the main networks, I would say. And I'm going to put we will put the video in the show notes, but there's a really cool video that you guys should check out that captures this, it's kind of a snapshot of a bunch of protests. And it's done really well. It's very moving, and it kind of gives you more of a accurate look at what's been happening nationwide.
Yeah.
So we'll put that in the show notes for sure.
And so then Saturday we took the opportunity to participate in our own protest here locally in our town. New Albany put together an organized protest, and
it was actually a student graduated from the high school. It was all students. The organizers they were graduated students, so probably either college grads now or out of college, but they organized the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job. Yeah. And our son is entering that high school for his freshman year this fall. So yeah, but we went and
let me give you a picture. I could throw.
Oh yeah, I should show that.
But yeah, you can keep going. Yeah, so there's all of us, and we were with our your sister and her husband, who is half black, and their daughter, and so just being supportive too. I mean, it's part of our family, and so just standing with them, they wanted to go do it, and just being supportive of them, and teaching our children as well, to take this opportunity to stand up for your family and your friends.
Right.
It's a huge lesson.
Right. Definitely. And we love our family. And so, yeah, my brother-in-law, his brother-in-law, he's just so awesome. And there's just, there's complexities on every aspect of this. It's so interesting. And I'm learning to listen and ask good questions, even with him and with anyone else who is an American of color. And I think that is one of the greatest takeaways for me, is to listen more than I speak and ask really good questions. I want to have a quick conversation just around how the protesting conversations went with our family and our children. I know I've said this before. If you know me, you've probably heard me quote this, but parents are the number one influencers of their children, period. Whether you want to be or not, what they hear you say and do and speak, you are influencing them through your example, through everything. So in some of these conversations, obviously, we are a huge advocate for discussing, with our kids, being accepting of others, equality, diversity with their friends and in their neighborhood. And so that conversation is not new at all in our home,
Right.
And when I talked with my 10-year-old, Aaliyah, about what was going on in our world and what had happened recently with George Floyd, and then I shared the story of Breonna Taylor with her and some of these other stories, Ahmed, and, I made it developmentally appropriate, which I think is important as parents, to shield your kids from news that's really not appropriate for them, but also not shield them from the fact that there's a lot of injustice and things going on in our world that they do need to be aware of and hear about. And so when I told her about the protest, she simply said, "Mom, I don't like crowds. This makes me really uncomfortable." And she kind of got emotional about it. And she kind of looked up and just said, "Why do I have to do anything, Mom?"
Yeah.
So kids also, sometimes they can just stop you in your tracks, especially, she's 10. She's, thinking of it in her brain, why does that really affect me? I'm in my safe little home and I'm, you know what I mean? I'm, almost that's someone else's problem or story. It's not mine.
Yeah.
And And I told her, because it's the right thing to do. We feel like it is. And I told her, we talked about, how passionately we feel about speaking up and being vocal when an injustice happens. And I told her, I was like, I want to teach you to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So the opportunity for me was to see that I've talked a lot with my kids about equality and acceptance and being kind and tolerant and going out of your way to like love on people. I haven't had enough conversation about stepping up and speaking out when it's uncomfortable, when it's unpopular, when it's inconvenient, or when you see something, bullying or whatever happening at your school. Get in the middle of that. Get in front of the bully and go, stop.
Yeah.
Stop, or I get a teacher, I get, the administration involved. If it's violent, you get somebody involved. Like, you don't watch and be a bystander.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever been more upset at the conversation around or the facts around the 3 officers that watched George Floyd be killed. They watched him. Mm-hmm. And, so for me, as with my mom's heart and brain, I'm like, I don't want my kids to stand by. Do you remember the show with the hidden cameras?
Yeah.
I'm trying to add in a little fun.
Right.
Yeah. It's John
Quinones.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that show, I know it's old, but anyways, I used to love watching that show because he would basically capture how ordinary people would behave when they're confronted with dilemmas, or some type of social injustice or problem that require them to take action or to just walk by and ignore it and mind their own business.
Yeah.
So bottom line, I want to raise kids that don't ignore it. They don't ignore the problem. They don't mind their business.
Yeah. That would make you proud.
Yes. Yes. If I get called from the school because one of my kids stood up to a bully, or one of my kids stood up to somebody who was, bullying someone for whatever, their looks, their size, their color, who knows, for their, academics or their lack of sporting, ability. Like, I want that call from the principal. I don't want them to be violent or anything, but I want to know if one of my kids stood up and kind of got in the middle of the conflict and helped stop it.
Yeah.
That's my hope, at least.
Yeah. So Aaliyah actually ended up staying home. We went with our babysitter and kind of did a picnic. But Caden went down with us, and you saw our niece, Catalina, there too. So we all made our own signs. Aaliyah actually made a sign that Catalina carried as well. So it was very sweet. But gosh, what a crazy time to just even, I think all parents should be thinking about, like, what are we communicating to our kids right now? This is like, I mean, when do kids have a chance to be involved in a civil rights movement? I mean, it's been decades. I mean, since there's been anything like this. So, for us, I think it's like, this is such a unique time. What are we teaching our kids through this? So.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about another. We have so many. Are people going to like us after this? I don't know. Wow. Segueing into kind of just another aspect of, really, this is more of an observation, and I'm sure that you guys completely know what I'm talking about, but one issue that has become really obvious throughout this time is, I think that there's definitely a systemic problem in our country, and I would refer to it as like a culture of shame. And I think that people, a lot of people, and even maybe us at times, our default is to judge and to criticize, whether that's Facebook commenting or Instagram. And this is happening all the time right now. And I think it's kind of it's driving me a little bit bananas watching some of the Facebook interactions going on other people's posts. And people they feel the freedom and liberty to shame or judge other people for not being perfect, not doing or saying something right, for doing or saying too little, doing or saying too much. And it's literally robbing people of their own personal expression.
Yeah.
For what they feel like they're meant to do and say, like their contribution. I think we rob people when our negativity becomes that heightened and that vocal and that quick before asking a question, or before, instead of maybe my negative comment, what if I said, hey, can you help me understand where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Can you help me understand, maybe your background with this?
Yeah. I think it's just like somebody will say something, whether it's on Facebook. I mean, most of it's been through social media, but then it's, the need to feel like correcting somebody. Well, it's like, oh, well, but all lives matter. Oh, but there are like good cops out there too. Oh, but Trump is behind all this. Like, or, oh, but like we need to defund the police. Oh, but it's police unions. Oh, and it just becomes
it's constant.
Yeah, and there's some of it where it's like, hey, so let people have a freedom of expression and just go, yeah, I mean, you're voicing your opinion, which is completely allowed to do and healthy to do it in a way that's peaceful and expressive. And it's almost like we try to correct and go, oh yeah, but like remember, and it's like it's just not necessary.
It's actually not our job.
Yeah, it's not your.
Who gave
it's
us?
Not your
who
job.
gave us that job?
Right.
It's not your job. It's not our job. Like.
Yeah. And so if somebody wants to say Black Lives Matter, like awesome. If somebody wants to say all lives matter, great. Like at the end of the day, it's not our job to correct into what is actually 100% right.
Completely. Well, let's see. Question for you all. What can we do? Comment if you want to. Do you have any ideas on what you could do before commenting or blasting someone on social media for their post or opinion? Like, what is the alternative? I mean, I know I have ideas, but I would love to hear yours for sure. And so we'll share a couple. The first one I kind of mentioned, earlier was to listen. I think listening is really important right now. Listening before we speak. And learning, like asking good questions is such a learned skill, and it can be really difficult to ask good questions.
Oh, for sure.
I think you ask really good questions.
Oh, thanks.
Most of the time.
Yeah. But I've gotten a couple comments over things I've said around this or things I've posted, and I think that was kind of my response was like, some people reach out and go, yeah, but this. I'm like, well, you also could have first asked me a question on like why I posted that or why I said it like that.
Right.
And seek to understand where I'm coming from first.
Yes. There's always more behind the scene context to what someone is talking about in a social post.
Right.
There's more than they're giving you. And I think that if we can, instead of jumping to conclusions or shaming or blaming or criticizing, I think that you moved my notes up. Don't do that. Asking great questions and pausing for a moment is a really awesome way to expand your thinking, be beneficial to the conversation. So yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, I love that. Cool.
I think the last thing I don't know, I really wanted to share, and I know that I'm an advocate for this in every way, and I think it's a call to action for all of us. Let people be who they are. It's really simple. You get to decide who you are on social media. You get to decide what your digital platform looks like. You get to decide what kind of mother, father, daughter, son, human you are. You get to decide that. Really, it's no one else's role or job to perfect you or change you. And that extends to just how you express yourself in writing, articles, social posts, what photography you put out there. And yeah, I don't know. Your voice it's your own. And I would say, I would encourage everyone to kind of just go for it. And don't give in to the shame, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Speak up, use your voice.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. Well said. Good job.
Well, I mean, listen, I think bottom line, those are all really, really simple, practical things for us moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we shared anything like super scientific or, you know, I don't know, mindset groundbreaking, but at the same time, some of the most simple tools and perspectives can be the most helpful.
Yeah.
Or a really great launching pad, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Great comment from Matt Vaccaro. Hey, bro, thanks for hanging out with us. People don't see other viewpoints sitting at home alone. So true. Like on the other side of social media, you sitting at home, you're not going to see other people's viewpoints. They are overconfident about their opinions because they can't see or react to other people's reactions. And it's so true. And in that way, like social media has given us an amazing platform to express ourselves, to be who we are, to have a voice. At the same time, it's a horrible platform for empathy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because you have to actively put yourself in the other person's shoes when you see something on social media.
Yeah, that's
and most
so
people
good.
Can't do that.
Right.
And so we judge, or we correct, or we temper it, or we adjust it. You know, I mean, when somebody says Black Lives Matter, it's like, oh, but all lives matter. And it's like, why do we feel the need to do that?
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to happen. Like if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, I'm like, you know, we have a member of our family that's part Black. Like, ask that first, you know,
right.
before you comment or correct me on like what I'm saying. So it's so good, so true. So thanks, Matt. Dropping wisdom at the end of a show. A very dangerous platform. Well said. Thanks.
Yeah, I know. We're basically like, what?
Yeah, I think Matt just came along and was like, here, let me drop the mic at the end of the show. So, anything else?
I don't think so. Just, you know, listen, we love and respect you all, and you may or may not agree with some of the things that we shared on here. That's our disclaimer. We're still going to love you, and that doesn't change. You love you. We'll still respect you.
This is why moms are good. My mom, tornado warning for Franklin County will be in New Albany at 7:08. It's 6:52 right now. Thanks, Mom. We need to run for shelter. It is looking crazy outside, so in the middle of a live show, Joshua, there's a tornado warning.
She knows how to find you.
I know, yeah.
That's really funny.
All right, guys, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Just so you know, obviously live is our main platform, but then we kick these over to a podcast subscription. So if you want to listen to them, subscribe. All the rain is just nailing the house now. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, we're over at all those locations. You can check us out. But we'll be here live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. I don't know if you can hear that. You can probably see the windows here in the background. Tornado warning in effect.
Oh, we were going to try and get food somewhere.
Yeah, we got to eat. So,
Oh, jeez.
all right, guys, we'll see you next week.